Namaste everyone, thanks for tuning in. Let's play chess. Pawn at d4, pawn at e6, knight at f3, pawn at d6, pawn at e4, pawn at c6, pawn at d5, knight at f6, knight at c3, pawn takes pawn at d5, bishop at g5, bishop at e7, pawn at e5, knight at e4, bishop takes bishop at e7, queen takes bishop at e7, knight takes knight at e4, pawn takes knight at e4, knight at d4, pawn takes pawn at e5, bishop at d5, bishop at d7, bishop takes bishop at d7, knight takes bishop at d7, knight at b5, black castles, white castles, pawn at b6, rook at e1, queen at b4, knight at c7, rook at d8, pawn at c3, queen takes pawn at b2, rook take pawn at e4, queen takes pawn at c3, knight at b5, queen at a5, knight at c7, queen at c5, rook at c1, knight, queen at a5, pawn at a4, knight at c5, queen at e1, knight takes rook at e4, queen takes queen at a5, pawn takes queen at a5, pawn at f3, pawn at f7, f6, knight at b5, pawn at a6, knight at c3, rook at c8, king at f2, knight at d5, knight takes knight at d5, rook take rook at c1, knight at e7, king at h8, king at g3, rook at c4, rook takes pawn at a4, knight at c6, rook at a2, knight takes pawn at e5, pawn move at a4, king at f4, rook take pawn at g2, knight at d7, rook at d4, d8, knight at c5, pawn at a3, knight at b3, pawn at a2, king at e3, rook at b2, knight at a1, rook at b1, rook at c2, rook at c8, knight at d2, queen, pawn converts to queen, knight takes queen at a1, rook takes knight at a1, queen at d3, rook at c1, king at e4, pawn at g6, pawn at f4, pawn at a5, king at e5, pawn at a4, pawn at h5, king at g7, pawn takes pawn at g6, pawn takes pawn at g6, king at d4, pawn at a3, king at e3, pawn at a2, king at d3, pawn converts into queen, king at e3, king at a4, king at d3, rook at h1, and whites surrender. Thank you so much guys. Goodbye until next time.